What is the best way to address sleep disturbances that are due to hormonal changes? This is a question that came up recently during a live sleep coaching call within my Sleep Skills for Life program, which is very much a group sleep coaching program. But the reason I wanted to share my answer to this question with you as well is because there's a lot of different misconceptions I heard over the years about what is even possible when you know that you are going through hormonal changes for various reasons. Now, one of the most important things to bear in mind when it comes to hormones is that they are a very normal part of our entire human being, physiology, as well as behavior. So, these hormones are responsible to take messages from different organs so that the body and the different parts of the body can communicate with each other. And this is just the simplest way to describe them. Now, one of the things that's very important to bear in mind is that there are over 50 different hormones that we have in our body. So if we look at hormonal changes and hormonal things that relate to our sleep, we got to be a bit more specific about what are we looking at. So whilst this question is quite a general question, in my answer, I also wanted to break down a different way to look at it, because it really just depends on what kind of hormones we're talking about and how they relate to your sleep problems in a very practical way. Now, before we jump into my answer to this question, I wanted to welcome you back as always if you're part of my community already. If you're brand new, then let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Beatrix Schmidt. I'm a sleep coach, a professional speaker, and the creator of the Sleep Skills for Life program, which is my way of helping people just like you who have struggled with long-term insomnia and sleep problems and haven't quite managed to overcome it, even though I'm sure you've tried and put in place lots of different things. And what I do within the program is very much sleep coaching. It's really figuring out what are some of those things that will make the biggest difference for you and in your situation. So now that we have covered that, one more thing to ask is, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button below, hit that little bell as well so I can let you know when I post new videos in the coming weeks. So let's turn our attention back to this question about hormones. And as I mentioned in the answer, I'm going to share with you, I'll break it down in different ways. But one of the most important things is that you can't just look at hormones, the big picture, but you've got to really look at how things are actually showing up in your life. Do you even know that there is a hormonal change happening, or maybe you're assuming that it is happening? So naturally, one of the first things I always ask from people is never to self-diagnose, but to really understand, especially this relationship between sleep problems, sleep disturbances, and hormones in a very practical way based on your situation. So now that we covered that, let me share my answer to this question about the relationship between sleep disturbances and hormones. Now, this is a really interesting part of sleep, hormonal changes. Now, depending on what kind of hormonal changes we're talking about, it would then vary my answer. But first of all, and I did ask this question in a community after you posted that question, is that I need to understand what hormonal changes we're referring to. Hormonal changes are a very big group of things. So are we talking about sort of premenopause, menopause for women? Are we talking about sort of other hormones that are triggered through different things? So I'd like a bit of clarification of what kind of hormones we're talking about here, because they're very different depending on how the hormones behave. Is it a cycle thing? Is it a daily thing? Is it maybe a stress trigger which causes the hormones to rise? So I'd like to get a bit more clarification on what kind of hormones we're talking about. But hormones also have emotional components and mental components. So I'm just going to take sort of menopause as an example, because that's probably a very good way talk you through about how I look at hormonal changes. Now, we often talk about menopause for women, but we don't often talk about the hormonal changes men go through as well. So whether or not you're going through a life stage change at a certain age group, everyone is going through hormonal changes. Often women are the ones that are more obviously talked about, but men go through hormonal changes too at a certain age group too. So, but if we take the sort of menopausal headlines or hormones as an example, if there are hormonal changes happening that are naturally part of aging, the question we have to ask first is, do they require medical treatment? Not every hormonal change requires medical treatment, but some of them are better treated through medical treatment. So again, I'm not here to diagnose. It really depends on the person. It depends on the scale of the problems they have. Often it depends on the combination of the problems they're experiencing. So if you take menopause, for example, if the symptoms of menopause are very severe, then the first thing I always say to clients is you got to go have an assessment so that you can really understand what is the level of hormonal changes that are happening, how far away you are from a neutral place. Hormones go up and down naturally, so we've got to understand what's that neutral and how far away you are from it at a different stage of the month, or depending on what kind of hormones we're talking about. But that's just the physical part. Even if you're going through hormonal changes and you don't require treatment for them, there are the emotional and the mental components of those changes as well. Again, if we go back to menopause as an example, often there are going to be other changes that come with the hormonal change. So we might feel lower, we might feel more tired naturally as the hormones change or go up and down. We often will start reading about it, which means our mental thought patterns are going to change as well. Our beliefs going to change as well. So often when women hit a certain age group, they start already sort of preparing for the changes and how bad or how good they might be. Everybody experiences hormonal changes differently. What we want to understand is what is your practical situation, so we can really tailor things to whatever's going on for you. We can't compare a person who is just feeling a bit tired to another person, again, for a menopause example, who has several sort of night sweats and sort of different things going on at night. They're two different examples completely. So the way we deal with them are different. So look at what are the physical symptoms you're experiencing. If it's tiredness, what part of the day you feel more tired. If it's sort of really other physical symptoms, how are you experiencing them? What are those physical signs that are happening? Then emotions. How do those physical symptoms make you feel emotionally? And I mean emotion. Are you upset? Are you frustrated about them? Are you maybe surprised, as in it's not a negative experience, but maybe it's a surprisingly positive experience? You're not struggling as much as maybe other people said so. Or maybe you're not struggling as much as you struggled a couple of months ago. So that's the emotional component. What are the emotions that are triggered by these physical changes you're experiencing? And then the third part, which is the mental component. What are your thought patterns? What are the things that you're maybe reading about, some of the beliefs you have around this? So for example, again, often when I work with people, women through menopause or pre-menopause, they have this preconceived idea that their sleep has to suffer and they will probably gonna struggle all the time. You don't have to. So just because an experience happens, it doesn't have to mean that your response is struggling and you are gonna experience it in a negative way. And again, we talked about this in different way when we talk about the mental component of sleep. So again, as an example, just because you wake up in the middle of the night, let's say, and it might be due to hormonal change, it doesn't have to mean that that episode has to really be frustrating and it has to create a lot of very sort of active thought patterns. The physical component is one, but we can actually work with the other two. So when it comes to hormonal changes, whilst the physicalities we can't ignore if they're significant, but really our work is then on the emotional and mental components of how you respond to whatever's going on. Sleep can be improved even if you have hormonal changes happening. I have worked with plenty of people who have had different things. Some of them were actually down to medical diagnosis. Some of them were more sort of the menopause sort of bracket. I also worked with people, men, who actually found out that they're going through a hormonal change as well. So again, a lot of the time, some of the signs are tiredness and some sort of physical discomfort first, which is no different to any other physical discomfort that we might experience. It can be very frustrating, which is why we can really deal with the emotional and the mental components so that you're not really triggered by these things. And so again, to give you one more example with this, if you're waking up in the middle of the night with sleep disturbances, if the hormonal changes are normal and they don't require treatment, or you decide not to have treatment for it, then the physical thing is only one component. The hormonal change in the middle of the night never really tends to last the entire night. So what we need to deal with is how easily you can fall back to sleep from them, how you're able to relax physically, emotionally, mentally, even if that hormonal changes might be the reason that you initially woke up. So again, this is the difference, where if something is happening that we can't take out, then the way we deal with it is to deal with the aftermath of that thing that happens. So just because you wake up, it doesn't have to mean it's ruining the rest of your night. It's how easily can we help you to fall back to sleep and calm yourself down from any even physical heightened feeling or any of those experiences you have in the middle of the night, and so that you can fall back to sleep easily in within a short period of time. Now that you have heard my answer to this question about this bidirectional relationship between hormonal changes and sleep disturbances, it's over to you. It's really important, just like I mentioned to the client as well, to look at your personal situation. If you haven't yet and you're suspecting some sort of hormonal change or situation, then the best way forward is to seek assessment for that particular part of your bigger picture or the sleep problems. And if you already know that some of those basic hormonal changes are happening, nothing significant, nothing diagnosable, then it's really time to turn your attention on the emotional and mental components of that bigger picture. When we get really worked up about some of these things that we're experiencing, it's going to affect our ability to be able to sleep well. If you then think about all those situations, or maybe even have health-related concerns, again, of course, that's going to affect your ability to be able to sleep well for many years to come. So this is where you're going to look at all those three different parts, just like I mentioned to the client as well, and really look at what is playing a role for you in your situation. But once again, hormonal changes are a normal part of who we are as a human being. So work with what is going on for you and look at which are the things that you can influence in a practical way through behavioral changes and mindset changes and even different practices, and what some of those other things there are that might need a different type of treatment. So thank you so much for watching today's video. If you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel, hit that little bell as well so I can let you know when I post new videos. And if you like today's video, then that little like button is there for you to click on as well.